Former Raptors point guard Dennis Schröder was recently traded in a deal that did not involve the Toronto Raptors, but will certainly have a big impact on the team this season. I'll explain why in today's video. Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content and videos just like this. Drop a like if you enjoy along the way and subscribe for more just like it. And to give some extra support to the channel, check out the merch that we have on sale. I'm wearing the shirt from the merch drop and the black cap, but we also have it in white. Use the link in the description to message out and get your merch today. But today we're talking all about the Dennis Schröder trade and its impact on the Toronto Raptors, because this is a former Raptors player who was traded in a deal that involved the Brookyln Nets and it involved the Golden State Warriors and a bunch of picks, none of which were via the Toronto Raptors. So this deal had no involvement with the Raptors. However, it is still going to have a big impact on the Raptors this season specifically, because we saw Dennis Schröder playing for the Brookyln Nets after he was traded to Brooklyn by Toronto at the previous trade deadline in February of this year. He was traded to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie. The Raptors then, of course, waived Spencer Dinwiddie. So essentially, the Raptors traded Dennis Schröder for nothing because they bought out Spencer Dinwiddie. Well, it wasn't exactly that. Dennis Schröder was sent to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brookyln Nets then had to pay Dennis Schröder's contract for this current season, whereas Spencer Dinwiddie was on an expiring contract. So instead of just holding Spencer Dinwiddie for nothing, because the Raptors didn't really want to use him, they were tanking, they bought him out. He went to a different team. Then the Raptors wiped that bill off the books for the most recent offseason, whereas the Brookyln Nets, in exchange for getting rid of Spencer Dinwiddie, just had to pay that extra year of Dennis Schröder's contract. Now, what they were hoping for out of this deal was getting some sort of trade asset for Schroder over the course of this season. And particularly after Dennis Schroder's hot start to the season, they thought they were going to get something pretty good. Dennis Schröder honestly got a really bad rap for the Raptors for how he played for the team. I wasn't a fan of the signing necessarily, but I felt like the fan base was really harsh on the way he played. He was decent for the Raptors. He was a fine point guard. It just, the team overall wasn't that good. But this season for Brooklyn, I mean, he started the season playing at like an MVP level almost, but since then, like, he's averaging 18 points per game this season on 45% shooting from the field, almost 39% shooting from three, racking up assists as well. Like, Dennis Schröder is a pretty good player, and I think is very much going to help the Golden State Warriors. So why did Dennis Schröder only cost this through a trade? Because in the trade, getting sent from the Brooklyn Nets to the Golden State Warriors, this is all the Brooklyn Nets got in return. Again, they're hoping for something pretty good for Schröder, especially after the way he started the season and the numbers that I just showcased there. The Brooklyn Nets only received a two-way player in the form of Reese Beekman and 3 second-round picks, a 2026 and 2028 pick via Atlanta and a 2029 pick via Golden State. 3 second-round picks, but Brooklyn also gave up a second-round pick in the deal, a 2025 second-round pick via Miami. So in the end, like, it's 3 second-round picks, yes, but like, it's kind of two. They gave away one. They got three. They got a two-way player. So they get 2 second-round picks and a two-way player for Dennis Schröder playing great basketball. Now, I know Dennis Schröder is on an expiring contract. That certainly decreases his value, but it's a pretty good contract. It's not costing the Warriors a whole ton to take on this deal. And I think, again, he is going to help the Warriors this season. Typically, over the years, I feel like a player that is playing this caliber of basketball is comfortably fetching you a first-round pick. But with the way things are in the NBA, with the apron, the second apron that are hampering teams in their ability to build their teams, these first-round picks are starting to really become premiums. And teams who have previously given up all these first-round picks might look back on those trades regrettably for the new landscape of salaries and the salary cap in the NBA. And this is where it comes into play for the Toronto Raptors. Not for some previous trades, although you could argue it does involve a previous trade. What it does affect for the Raptors is their ability to make moves this season, because it is looking likelier on a day-to-day basis that the Toronto Raptors are inevitably going to be a tanking team at some point this season. The team has lost 5 games in a row. They've slumped to a 7-20 record. They just cannot stay healthy. Barrett has had time out. Emmanuel quickly has sustained multiple injuries, and he's currently out. Scotty Barnes has sustained multiple injuries, and he is currently out. Jakob Gramegna, I don't know the extent of the groin injury that he just picked up, but it didn't look very good. Like, injuries continue to hamper this Toronto Raptors team. Their record is not good. this is a good draft class. Yeah, at some point, this team is going to have to look to take a step back. And the likes of Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher and potentially Jakob Poeltl could be players that the Raptors could look to move. I think they'll be aggressively looking for trades for Bruce Brown. They should be aggressively looking for trades for Chris Boucher. And I don't think they should necessarily be aggressively shopping Jakob Poeltl. But hey, if the right offer comes in for Yak, that's one you probably have to take at this point. But we're hoping to get value out of these players through the trade market, but Dennis Schröder and this trade to the Golden State Warriors might set the precedent for what the trade market looks like this season. I feel like in the case of Bruce Brown, there is a case to be made that going towards winning a championship, building a winning team, Bruce Brown could have a little bit more value than Dennis Schröder, but even still, like the Golden State Warriors value Dennis Schröder. There's conversations the Warriors are going to be starting Dennis Schröder alongside Steph Curry, and he's going to take a lot of the ball handling duty for the team. Like, that's a significant piece. And they gave up, based on, the math that goes into it, they gave up 3 second-round picks to get one back. They gave up 2 second-round picks and a two-way player in order to get that caliber of a player onto their team. So for the Raptors, this is kind of a disaster situation looking at the market here, because they had opportunities to trade Bruce Brown last year for a first-round pick, specifically in the 2024 draft, and they turned it down. They wanted future first-round picks. They wanted first-round picks for this year's draft class, and I don't think it was the wrong decision to hold out on that, considering the state of last year's draft class. So the Raptors have done really well with their rookie class this year, like Walter, Mobo, Shed, Shamshe, Battle. 5 rookies from the 2024 class look pretty good for the Raptors this season, but even still, they were more so focused on getting picks for the 2025 draft or the 2026 draft, which is shaping up to be pretty good as well. Now that we've seen this market precedent established by Dennis Schröder, it's definitely looking increasingly unlikely that first-round picks are just going to be thrown around right now. Teams understand that, these are cheap contracts that are much easier to build your team with than going out and trading a bunch of them. Like the apron has seriously hampered what teams can do, and it has seriously hampered how salaries can be distributed around the NBA. So there was already that additional difficulty in making trades happen, especially for a player like Bruce Brown making over $20 million on his contract. As much as it's an expiring contract, you still have to salary match that this season. And if you're a team that's over the apron, you cannot take back any of that additional salary. So the trade was already in a complicated place for the Raptors. And now there's just an additional market precedent being set here that first round picks are a premium that probably aren't going to be offered up. So for Jakob Poeltl, the max they'll get is probably one first round pick, which I don't think is enough to trade him. For Chris Boucher, you're dreaming, really. You're not getting a first. We knew that already, but what's he worth? Maybe 1 second-round pick at this point? Is that better than just letting Chris Boucher's contract expire? Probably. I would maybe take a swing on that. But for Bruce Brown, the conversations around getting a first-round pick, man, it would take some doing at this point by the Toronto Raptors front office to get a first-round pick out of Bruce Brown. We had difficulties trading him last year. For this year, there's got to be a team that really has some desperation in needing a player. Maybe that team is Bruce Brown going back to the Denver Nuggets, but this is a difficult situation. And again, kind of thinking about it right now, trying to look for the right words to describe it. Would I go all the way and say, I'd be pretty surprised if the Raptors traded Bruce Brown and got a first-round pick in return? I might say that. You'll definitely get some seconds out of him. I mean, you saw Dennis Schröder. I think you can get 3 second-round picks out of Bruce Brown, but the first-round picks, I'm not so sure. Like I said, they're a premium, and like I also said earlier on in the video, teams that have traded their first-round picks previously might look back on those decisions a little bit regrettably. I don't think the Raptors necessarily got a bad value for trade when they traded a first-round pick to get Jakob Poeltl. I certainly think they got bad value out of trading a first-round pick to get Thaddeus Young all those years ago, but the timing of that trade, given that it delayed the inevitable rebuild that the Raptors were heading for, makes that trade look bad for Poeltl, though the player is fantastic. I love the player, it's just the timing was bad. Value-wise, what the Raptors got versus what they gave away, the trade was okay, giving away a first-round pick to get Jakob Poeltl, but in the end, that turned into a really good pick that went to the Spurs, first of all. And second of all, again, it just delayed that rebuild. So, I mean, even if you want to add something, third of all, these picks are now premium. And it would have been good for the Raptors to harness those extra young assets for the team. So, yeah, looking at the landscape here, these picks are important to have. So, thinking what could be out there for Bruce Brown right now, this could turn into a problem for the Raptors. And was supposed to be a couple months here heading up to the trade deadline where the Raptors were potentially going to add on future assets to the team. It's becoming increasingly more unlikely, but we'll see exactly what the front office can do for the rest of this season. I mean, they didn't do poorly last year. Around this time of year, they traded OG Anunoby and got Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett in return. They got Ochai Agbaji last season in a trade. Like, there's opportunity here, but the trade market is getting increasingly more difficult to navigate. We're going to cover exactly what Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster's front office can do over this period right here on Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video, and make sure you shop the merch. Here's the shirt. Here's the hat in black. We also have it in white. I have it on my shelf there, and I will see you again next time for another video.